Imagine if there was a psychological principle that governed almost all of your life and you'd never heard of it. Well, there is. It's called hedonic forecasting, and it's the subject of today's video. I'm Randy Patterson, author of the Assertiveness Workbook and How to Be Miserable, and this is a channel with videos on psychological topics. If you like this kind of thing, click subscribe below. Psychology, like any field, has lots of bits and pieces, nuggets of information that apply to odd little corners of human experience. If you're afraid of heights, here's something that can help. If you're not, well, it's not very relevant. But there are also a few lenses, like binoculars, through which you can view all of life. Hedonic forecasting is one of these, and it's one of the few that most people have never heard of. So, what are we talking about? Well, listen, bear with me. Every day you make hundreds of decisions, big and small. Do you want to get up or stay in bed? What do you want for breakfast? Which route will you take to work? What will you wear today? What do you want to do first? Should you wash the dishes now or later? Where do you want to go on vacation? What do you want to watch on Netflix? What kind of career would you like? Should you marry this person or not? Rent or buy? Bike or scooter? Cook or eat out? Dress up or dress down? Shoes or sandals? Another beer? Maybe not. Turn up the heat or turn it down? Hundreds of choices. You may think that's not true. You don't actually make that many choices, but that's because you make so many of them that they become automatic. You don't even realize that you're choosing. If you stay at home, lie in bed, and coast through YouTube all day, all of that is a succession of choices that you have made. And how do you make them? In large part, you make them based on a prediction, a forecast of how your choice will make you feel in the future. Will you feel happy with your choice, or will you regret it? Will it make your life better or worse? In the future, would you rather this or that? Will you be happier 20 minutes from now with the burger or the pasta? Will you be glad you married this person, or would you be better off single? If you watch this video, maybe you'll be glad you did, maybe you won't. If you really think about the decisions you make, most are based on a forecast of how you will feel in the future. And that's why this entire field is often called emotional forecasting. The prediction of your emotional state in the future. When we're talking about predictions of some sort of happiness, it's called hedonic forecasting. Now, you might think that some decisions aren't really about happiness, but they are. Are you going to bike to the store or take transit? Well, if it rains, maybe you'll be happier if you're on the bus. But that bus is often delayed. Maybe you'll be glad you took a bike. Plus, you'll feel virtuous for having had the exercise. What about going to the dentist? Well, one reason we go is it's hanging over our head and we feel happier if it's off the to-do list. We also suspect that we'll be happier in the future if we have decent teeth than if they've all fallen out. What about visiting Aunt Sylvia in the hospital? That doesn't sound like much fun, but what are you going to do instead? Watch YouTube? Maybe you'll be happier with yourself if you live out your values and show you're caring for Aunt Sylvia. Many of the things we do that aren't big, giggly fun are satisfying at a deeper level, a more lasting sense of satisfaction. We give to charity, we do things for others, and we sacrifice our time and energy in large part because it's satisfying to do so. What about things we don't seem to have a choice about, like paying our taxes? Well, in fact, we do have a choice, and maybe we make that choice partly because we suspect we will be happier outside of jail than inside. Or maybe we think more broadly and realize we actually like having national parks and fire departments and clean water and a passport, so we're reasonably happy paying for those things with taxes. Now, we could take this further and say that every decision you make is entirely about emotional forecasting. And I think I could make a reasonable case for this, though you might disagree. But we don't have to go that far. It's easily enough if you see that most of your decisions are based in large part on these emotional predictions. Well, fine. So what? Well, it wouldn't really matter if we were good at it. And we should be good at it. As I say, we get lots of practice. We make hundreds of decisions every day, and then we see how it turns out. If we hate the pasta, we'll know. If we date another bigot, we'll find out what that's like. And maybe we'll do better next time. By all rights, we should be terrific at emotional forecasting. We all get way more than 10,000 hours of practice on it. But here's the thing. It turns out we're not good at it. We suck at it. Human beings consistently and repeatedly make choices based on predictions about what will make us happy, and they don't. So you date this person who's exactly like the last 5 people who all made you miserable. We order that extra beer and we regret it in the morning. We overspend and then we feel unhappy with our credit card bill. Now, some stuff in psychology is hard to study. Hedonic forecasting is simple. Talk to somebody who's about to make a decision and ask them to predict what their emotions will be like if they choose option A or option B. And then invite them to make that choice and see what really happens. Measure it. How happy are you now? It's stupidly easy. So that's been done. And over we find the same thing. People are terrible at this. Get somebody about to buy a luxury car and ask them 2 questions. How happy is this going to make you? Give me a number on this scale here. And how long is that happiness going to last, do you think? So that's really 3 things in all. Valence, are you going to feel good or bad? Intensity, how strong will that feeling be? And duration, how long will you feel that way? In the case of cars, people are actually better than I've been saying. I think it'll make me this happy and I'll have the car for maybe 5 years. So 5 years of happiness, pretty cheap overall. And it turns out it does make them about as happy as they think it will. And that happiness lasts about a week, the most expensive week of their life. Next luxury car that passes you on the street, look at the driver's face. Why am I not liking this more? Now, does this apply to you? I've never even met you. Well, yeah, it probably does. Sit right there and surf through YouTube for the next 2 hours. Watch what happens to your mood. Surfing through YouTube is a choice. It's one you've made repeatedly. And afterwards, was your life better? I rest my case. Now, I'm not saying that every decision you make is terrible. There's that thing on the menu at that restaurant that you like and you're always glad you got it, right? Fine. You actually do like where you chose to live. You went out cycling last weekend. You're glad you did. Many of your decisions work out. You predicted happiness and you got it. But look at the areas of your life that are unsatisfying, the things that drag you down. Some of them have nothing to do with you. The earthquake wrecked your place. Okay, but how many of them are based on choices that seemed good at the time, but didn't work out? And you should have known they weren't going to work out because you've made them over and over and over again. They never work out. It's tempting to notice these and conclude that we're just idiots. Tear down your self-esteem with them. They're the toxic residue of our lives, these bad decisions. But they're not. They're the gold. If we want to feel better about our lives, this is one of the best ways to do it. Look for those repeated patterns of decisions that did not work out. In psychology, we have a saying, the best predictor of the future is the past. If you really want to get better at hedonic forecasting, you need to stop looking at the future. Look at the past instead. How did that work out before? You spent $600 on spray tans 2 years ago thinking that was going to make you feel happy. Fine. Did it? If not, maybe it's an example of bad wiring, a failure of your ability to forecast your emotions. Wisdom is in large part the ability to look past temporary emotion to what's actually true. Maybe avoiding exercise always seems really tempting to you, but when you've done it for a while, you actually feel worse. By learning from the past, you can bypass that temptation in the future. Maybe you know that you always think another drink would be great, but experience has shown otherwise. Wonderful. The trick is to use that insight from the past when you're actually in the bar. What I'm talking about is using our lousy experiences in life as experiments rather than as opportunities to make ourselves feel bad. That seemed like a good idea, like it would take me in the right direction, but it didn't. Maybe that says something about my instincts, my temptations. Maybe that's one of these areas where I need to remind myself how it's gone in the past and then make my choice accordingly. And when things have gone well, we can use that too. Hey, I tend to feel better eventually when I exercise or eat properly or get enough sleep or do things that aren't part of my regular routine. When I close the computer, when I face my fears rather than running away, or say yes when I'm tempted to say no, or do something that's a bit more difficult than I think I can handle. And we can use those insights to guide our forecasts. We can learn about future emotional weather by looking at the weather in our past. Human beings are bad at hedonic forecasting, but not hopelessly bad. We can get better, but we get better by looking at the past, not the future. There are other videos on this channel on the psychology of everyday life. Click the subscribe button for more. I also have an online course site, psychologysalon.teachable.com, with programs for professionals and for the general public. And my books, The Assertiveness Workbook, How to Be Miserable, 40 Strategies You Already Use, and How to Be Miserable in Your 20s, are available from online booksellers and sometimes from actual bookstores. Thank you for watching.